Stop, my dear friend. Don't scroll, don't click away. Right now, right here, you need to hear this. Because what I'm about to tell you might be the answer you've been praying for months. I'm not talking about some feel-good line or another passing word of encouragement. I'm talking about a word that's been a long time coming. A word that carries the weight of seasons you've survived, the burdens you've shouldered, the nights you've stayed up staring at the ceiling wondering if God still saw you. And I know, because I've been there too. You see, this isn't about you doing something wrong. This is about the one who loves you stepping in, unprompted, because he knows exactly what you've been through. He's seen you fighting to keep the peace in your home, looking after everybody else while your own soul runs on empty. He's seen you giving your all without anyone stopping to ask how you're really doing. And maybe you've gotten used to it, thinking that's just the way life is now. But I'm here to tell you, no, it's not over. This moment you and I are in right now, it's a gift, a one-of-a-kind, once-in-a-lifetime moment. And if you walk away, you just might miss the very second heaven decided to pull up a chair beside you. So lean in, hear me out, because what's coming in this message is going to stir something in you. It's going to remind you that your story isn't finished, and the God you thought was silent has been moving behind the scenes this whole time. If you're ready for that kind of word, like this video, share it with someone you love and drop 777 in the comments so I know you're here with me. And now, let's walk through this together. Let me ask you something. Have you ever stopped to wonder about the dangers you never saw coming? I'm talking about the ones you didn't even know were aimed in your direction, the ones that could have taken you out if they had reached you. You didn't see them, but they were there. Words that could have wounded you deep never made it to your ears. Decisions that would have set you back were overturned before you even knew they existed. Paths that looked harmless but were lined with traps got shut down before you could take the first step. And you might have thought it was coincidence. No, my friend. That was protection. That was grace doing its work in silence. I've lived long enough to know that not every battle is fought where we can see it. Sometimes the biggest victories happen behind the curtain, in places you'll never set foot. The Bible says in Psalm 91:11, "For he shall give his angels charge over you, to keep you in all your ways." You didn't know it, but you've been guarded, shielded, covered. Somebody was taking hits so you wouldn't have to. I can't tell you how many times in my own life I've looked back and realized, man, I didn't just get lucky. I got spared. I remember moments when a conversation was supposed to go one way and somehow it shifted. People who were ready to pull me down suddenly backed off. Opportunities that looked good but would have been my downfall just vanished. Back then I didn't understand it. But now I see it wasn't rejection, it was redirection. It wasn't delay, it was deliverance. And here's what I need you to understand. What's happening right now in your life is no accident. There's a shift taking place. It's not loud, it's not flashy, but it's real. And it's going to leave its mark. You're about to see doors open that no man can shut, and shut for good the ones that never should have been open in the first place. And when it happens, the people who doubted you, those who quietly questioned whether you'd ever come through, are going to have to face what God's been building in you. I know you've been carrying weight for a long time. You've been steady, doing the work nobody notices, protecting your home, keeping the peace. making sure everybody else is okay, even when your own soul's been running on empty. And because you've been in it so long, you might think that's all there is. But I came to tell you, this season is different. This is the moment where the hidden work becomes the visible reward. You see, when God does something in secret, it's not because He's hiding it from you. It's because He's preparing it for you. He's been setting the table while you were still in the hallway. And now, He's about to open the door and seat you in the place He's been getting ready. This is more than just a change in circumstance. This is purpose stepping into daylight. This is a chapter that's been written for years, finally being read out loud. I want you to think about all the close calls in your life. The times you almost signed on to something that would have drained you dry. The moments you almost trusted the wrong person, almost took the wrong road, almost stayed in the wrong place. Now understand this. You almost, because somebody up above said no. He rerouted you without asking for your opinion, because if he had, you might have fought him on it. That's love. That's protection. I've been on sets, in boardrooms, in rooms full of people smiling in my face, and still felt the tug of the Spirit telling me, not here, not this. And every time I listened, I found out later why. You might not have my story, but I know you've had your moments too. Times when something didn't work out and you thought it was the end. But now, years later, you can see it was the beginning of something better. That's why I'm telling you to hold your head up. If He's done it before, He's going to do it again. What's coming next is going to be undeniable. It's not going to need defending. You won't have to explain it or prove it. It will speak for itself. The same folks who thought you were finished will be standing there, watching, and they won't be able to deny that something bigger than you has been at work. You won't need to clap back. You won't need to say, "I told you so." The results will say it for you. But here's the thing. Don't rush it. The purpose that's been in the dark this long isn't going to just explode overnight. It's going to unfold. And as it does, you'll see how every step had meaning. You'll start to connect the dots, the delays, the detours, and you'll realize nothing was wasted. And I know what some of you are thinking right now. You're thinking, I've heard this before. I've been told my breakthrough is coming, but I'm still here waiting. I hear you. I've been in those seasons too, where every promise felt like it belonged to yesterday, where dreams felt too big for the stage of life I was in. But let me tell you, God doesn't run on our clock. He shows up right on time, even when it looks to us like He's late. This isn't about hype. This isn't about getting you emotionally worked up for nothing. This is about recognizing that there's been movement in the unseen that's about to show up in the scene. The favor that's coming has weight to it. It's not fluff. It's not temporary. It's designed to last because it's tied to purpose. And when something is tied to purpose, it can't be taken away. So here's my challenge to you. Start walking like you believe it. Even if the evidence hasn't shown up yet, carry yourself like the table is already set. Speak like the answer is already in motion. Live like the danger has already been handled, because it has. Don't let the shadows of what you've been through make you forget that you've been kept this whole time. When I look back over my own life, I can see now that some of my greatest blessings didn't come with trumpets and applause. They came quietly, through doors I didn't even know were there. They came when I was tired, worn down, and ready to give up. And that's why I can say to you with confidence, you are not here by accident. This moment is on purpose. And the shift that's happening isn't just for you to feel good for a week. It's going to change the landscape of your life. Don't be surprised if people start noticing something different about you before you even say a word. That's what happens when purpose gets activated. It shows up in your presence, in your decisions, in the way you carry yourself. And don't be surprised if some people who doubted you start circling back, wanting to understand how you made it. You won't have to give them all the details. Just let them see the work God has done in you. Because the truth is, your life is about to become evidence. Evidence of grace. Evidence of protection. Evidence that even in the seasons you didn't understand, something good was being put together. And when you walk in that kind of evidence, you don't need to force anything. You just live it. And it speaks. So remember this. Some of the greatest battles for your life have already been fought, and you didn't even know they were happening. You've been protected from conversations you never heard, from choices you never had to make, from dangers you never had to face. And all of that was so you could arrive here, in this moment, ready for what's next. And my friend, what's next is going to be worth every silent rescue, every closed door, every path you never took. You're about to see why it all had to happen the way it did. And when you do, you won't just thank God for the blessings. You'll thank Him for the battles you never had to fight. I've seen those mornings in your eyes, the ones where the weight hits you before your feet even touch the floor. You open your eyes and already feel the heaviness of the day pressing in. You know the responsibilities waiting for you, the conversations you can't avoid, the bills, the demands, the small fires you'll have to put out before breakfast. You've had mornings where you're not even sure how you're going to get through the next hour, much less the next day. And yet, you keep moving. You keep showing up. You keep doing what needs to be done. Not because it's easy, not because anyone's applauding you for it, but because it's the right thing to do. That kind of faithfulness doesn't make headlines. It doesn't draw crowds. Most of the time, nobody even notices. But I promise you, it's seen. Heaven sees it. God sees it. And I've learned in my own life that sometimes the truest strength isn't in the big, dramatic moments. It's in the quiet consistency of getting up, even when you'd rather stay down. You've been carrying out your duties without fanfare, without complaint, and often without recognition. You've been steady in seasons when others would have walked away. You've held your ground when there was no applause to keep you going. And even though it might feel like nobody's paying attention, that's never been true. I've been in places where I thought my work was invisible, where my sacrifices seemed to fade into the background. But looking back, I can see those were the very moments God was building something in me, something that could only be forged in the fire of unseen faithfulness. I know some of you have dreams you've quietly packed away, goals you once talked about openly, but now you keep them tucked deep in your heart because too much time has passed and they feel out of reach. Promises you believed in once, but over the years you've told yourself they must have been for another season, maybe for someone else. Let me tell you something. Just because you've stopped talking about them doesn't mean God has stopped working on them. Just because time has passed doesn't mean the value has diminished. In my journey, I've learned that the delay of a promise is not the death of it. The clock you and I live by is not the one God operates on. You might be looking at your life, thinking you've missed the window, thinking it's too late. But God's timing is never late. He's never early. He's right on time, every time. And when He brings something into your life, it's not because the stars happen to align or because you managed to fight your way to it. It's because it's the appointed time. There's a rhythm to God's timing that doesn't match the pace of the world. The world tells you, move faster, get it now, don't wait. But the truth is, some things are worth waiting for. And the best things require the right season. If a fruit comes before it's ripe, it's bitter. If it comes too late, it rots. But in the exact right moment, it's sweet, nourishing, and worth every second you waited. That's how God works. So when I talk about faithfulness, I'm not just talking about showing up to your job, paying your bills, or keeping your house in order. I'm talking about holding on to hope even when it doesn't make sense. I'm talking about staying true to your values when no one else is watching. I'm talking about keeping your hands to the work when there's no guarantee of applause or reward. And I'm talking about the kind of quiet endurance that the world doesn't understand, but God rewards in ways no paycheck or recognition ever could. Think about it. There have been times in your life when you kept going and you didn't even know why. Something in you wouldn't let you quit. That's not just grit. That's not just stubbornness. That's God's Spirit sustaining you, keeping you in place until the time is right. And here's the thing. Sometimes we don't realize we're being sustained until we look back and see how far we've come without even knowing how we made it through. I've walked through seasons where the days felt like they were on repeat. Wake up, work, handle the emergencies, keep the peace, go to bed, repeat. And in those moments, it's easy to feel like nothing's moving, like you're just treading water. But I've learned that even when it feels like nothing is happening, something is happening. The unseen work in you, the patience, the character, the resilience, that's the kind of growth that doesn't show itself overnight, but reveals itself in the right moment. Some of you are in that very place right now. You've been faithful in the small things. You've been steady in the hard things, and you've been waiting, maybe longer than you thought you could wait. But hear me, God hasn't forgotten you. He hasn't skipped over you. He hasn't moved on to someone else's life and left yours behind. He's still working, and His timing is perfect. I know this because I've lived it. I've had seasons where I thought the moment had passed. I'd look around and see other people moving forward, achieving things, stepping into their dreams, while I was still in the same place. And I'd think, maybe I missed it. But then, out of nowhere, God would open a door I didn't even know was there. And when I stepped through it, I could see why it had to happen in that exact moment, and not a day sooner. So I'm telling you now, don't let the quiet seasons convince you that nothing's coming. Don't let the absence of applause make you think your work doesn't matter. Every act of faithfulness, every decision to keep going, every time you've chosen integrity over convenience, it's been seen. And it's building towards something. There's a verse that says, "Let us not grow weary in doing good, for in due season we shall reap if we do not lose heart." That's not just a nice thought. That's a promise. And the due season it talks about is the one God's had marked on His calendar for you since before you ever began this journey. So what do you do in the meantime? You stay steady. You keep showing up. You keep sowing into the things that matter, your family, your faith, your integrity. You don't compromise your values to speed things up, because anything you gain by cutting corners will cost you more in the end. And when the time comes, and it will, you'll be ready to carry what's given to you because you were faithful when no one was watching. I've had to learn to trust the process, even when the process felt slow. I've had to learn that not every season is about harvest. Some are about planting, some are about tending the soil, and some are about waiting for the rain. But every one of those seasons matters, because without them, there's nothing to reap when the harvest comes. Right now, you might be in a planting season, you might be in a tending season, or you might be in that hard, quiet season where nothing seems to be happening at all. But if you've been faithful, you can rest knowing that your due season is already on its way. And when it comes, it won't be late. It'll be right on time. I've seen it happen in my own life. I've watched doors open that had been closed for years. I've seen dreams I thought were dead suddenly come alive again. And I've learned that the waiting wasn't wasted. It was preparation. It was God making sure I was ready for what I'd been asking for. And the same is true for you. So let me say it plainly. Every morning you've gotten up when you didn't feel like it. Every day you've done the work with no recognition. Every dream you've held on to in silence. It's been worth it. It's all been leading to something. And when the moment comes, you'll understand why it had to take as long as it did. Don't give up now. You're closer than you think. And when the breakthrough comes, it'll carry the weight of every faithful day you've poured into this journey. And you'll know, without a doubt, that it was worth every step. I've learned something over the years, and I want you to hear me on this. There's a kind of service that doesn't come with applause. The kind where nobody's clapping for you, nobody's posting about you, nobody even knows what you've done except you and God. That's the kind of service I'm talking about. Quiet, consistent, steadfast. The kind of faithfulness that never makes the headlines, but moves heaven itself. And I can tell you, because I've lived long enough to see it, heaven does take notice. You might think what you're doing has slipped under the radar, but it hasn't. The eyes of heaven never miss a thing. Picture that scene in the temple. Mark 12 and Luke 21 tell it. Jesus sitting quietly, eyes fixed on the crowd, watching as each person steps forward to place their offering into the treasury. The wealthy dropped in large sums, enough to make a sound when the coins hit the box. But then came a widow. No fanfare, no parade. Just 2 little coins, so small you could lose them in your pocket and not notice. She put them in, and to most people, it was nothing. Those coins didn't make a sound compared to the gold and silver others were giving. They didn't carry the weight of riches. But to Jesus, it was everything. You know, it's not the size of the gift that matters. It's the sacrifice. Others came and gave from their surplus. But she gave everything she had to live on. She held nothing back. That's what I mean by service without a spotlight. That's the heart you've been carrying. That's the way you've been showing up over and over, without recognition, without a parade. And I'm here to tell you, that's not wasted. Not a second of it. See, life has a way of making us believe that only the loud things matter. The promotions, the awards, the recognition. But I've lived enough years to know the loudest applause isn't always the truest reward. Sometimes the greatest honor comes quietly when the right time arrives. And I believe for you, that time is now. I don't say that lightly. I'm not here to hype you up for a week and leave you empty the next. I'm saying this because I believe you've hit a point on your road where the unseen work, the hidden sacrifices, are about to be honored in a way you can't mistake. This isn't just a good season coming your way. This is a turning point. I've had those moments in my life when I knew something had shifted. Not because anyone told me, but because I could feel it deep inside. It's like you wake up and the air feels different. You carry the same responsibilities, but you sense a new strength rising in you. If you've been feeling that lately, that subtle lift, that quiet breath of fresh air you can't quite explain, pay attention. That's not just your imagination. That's a signal. That's God's way of saying, I'm answering in my time. And if you've been asking yourself whether it's real, let me tell you, it is. I can't tell you how many times in my own life I've been in that place where nothing around me looked like change. But inside, I knew something was coming. I didn't know how. I didn't know when. But I knew. And every time I've been in that space, looking back, it was God's preparation. It was Him lining things up before I even saw the first piece move. That's what's happening here. The fact that you're even hearing these words right now, it's not random. It's not a coincidence. I believe it's part of that alignment. Now, here's what I want you to understand. This shift you're walking into, it's unique. It's not a cycle that comes around every few years. It's not a just wait until next time kind of thing. This is one of those once-in-a-lifetime turns, the kind that sets you on a different course entirely. And because of that, you can't afford to miss it by downplaying its significance. You can't brush it off as just another season. I've watched people miss their moment because they were too busy doubting it, too busy talking themselves out of it, too busy convincing themselves it was for somebody else. Don't do that here. Don't do that to yourself. What makes this moment so rare is not just what's coming, but how it's coming. This isn't going to arrive wrapped in the approval of everybody around you. It's not going to look like the kind of blessing you can compare to someone else's story. It's going to have your fingerprints all over it, because it's been built through your journey, your tears, your quiet acts of kindness, your resilience. Nobody else could wear this blessing and have it fit right. It's been tailored to you. And here's the thing. You're not going to have to fight for recognition this time. You're not going to have to justify why it's your turn. This is about justice. It's about a fair return for years of giving without taking, serving without demanding, believing without seeing. And I can tell you, from where I stand, when God decides it's time to honor a person like that, nothing and no one can hold it back. Not circumstances, not people's opinions, not the past. I know some of you have been in this long enough to grow tired of waiting. You've gotten so used to giving without receiving that the idea of being blessed almost feels foreign. You've built a life around managing without. And because of that, you might even feel a little uncomfortable hearing me say, your name is on this. But I need you to get past that. I need you to start believing again that you are worth honoring, because that's the part of the process that keeps us open to what's coming. If you close yourself off now, if you let cynicism win, you might miss the moment you've been working toward your whole life. So here's how you'll know. You'll feel it first. Not in your bank account, not in your schedule, not even in your circumstances, but in your spirit. You'll feel lighter. You'll notice moments where peace shows up before the problem is solved. You'll catch yourself smiling without a reason. You'll look at the same road you've been walking, and suddenly it won't feel so heavy. That's the sign. That's the signal that the answer has been released. And when that happens, speak it. Claim it. Don't whisper about it like you're afraid it might disappear. Stand in it. Say, "This is mine. I receive it." Because that declaration does something powerful. It aligns your words with what's already moving in your life. It's not about bragging. It's about agreement. And when you agree with what God's already set in motion, you're positioning yourself to walk right into it without hesitation. I've lived enough life to know that moments like this don't always come with fireworks. Sometimes they come in the form of a phone call, a conversation, a decision you didn't even realize was that important until later. But however it comes, the weight of it will be unmistakable. You'll look back on this time and know that's when things shifted. That's when my life took a turn I didn't see coming. But I sure am glad it did. And if I could leave you with one thought about this kind of season, it's this: you don't have to understand it fully to receive it fully. You don't need every detail explained. You just need to stay ready, stay humble, and stay thankful. Because gratitude keeps the door open. I've seen people get their blessing and lose it just as quickly because they forgot who brought it to them. Don't let that be your story. Keep your heart right, and the rest will take care of itself. So, if you're hearing this and you feel something rising in you, like a spark you thought had gone out, don't ignore it. That's your signal. That's your confirmation. And I'm telling you, as someone who's walked through deserts and into promised lands, that when you feel that, you lean into it. You keep walking. You keep your head up. Because you're about to step into something you've been quietly building toward for years. And trust me, when that moment comes, you will know that every wait was worth it. Because that moment is not just a reward, but a turning point. And that is really important. Because sometimes what God is leading you toward isn't just a new chapter. It's the breaking of an old chain. I've been around long enough to tell you this. There are situations in life that look locked in, like they're written in stone. Doctors give a report and it feels like a sentence. Patterns keep repeating and you start thinking, this is just my lot in life. People get comfortable calling it permanent. And if you're not careful, you start believing it too. But let me be clear. I've seen the author of life pick up what we thought was set in stone and rewrite it right in front of our eyes. I've watched diagnoses change. I've seen cycles that ran in families for generations suddenly break in one moment. I've witnessed situations that looked like they would never shift, get turned completely upside down. And not because of luck, not because of human willpower, but because God stepped in. That's not a theory for me. I've lived it. I've seen a room go quiet after news that was supposed to break someone, only for God to speak louder in ways no one expected. You might have a paper in your hand that says, unchangeable, but the one I serve has the final word. That report is not the end. That recurring struggle that's been draining you for years is not your forever. The same power that spoke the world into existence still has the authority to reorder what's been spoken over your life. And here's the thing. You might not see the shift right away on the outside. Sometimes the first change happens deep in here, in the quiet place where no one else can look. That's why you can be walking through the same old routine, carrying the same old weight. But something inside you starts to feel different. It's like a light flicking on in a room that's been dark for a long time. The walls are the same, but suddenly you can see them for what they are. That's the first sign. The transformation always starts within before it shows up around you. If you've been feeling that lately, maybe you can't even put it into words, but there's a stirring in your heart. You need to know you're not imagining it. That's what happens when God starts moving in your favor. The outer situation might still look the same for a moment, but the foundation has already shifted. I've learned that when God gets ready to change a thing, He starts at the roots. And when the roots change, it's only a matter of time before the fruit changes too. Now, let's talk about that silence you've been living with. I know it. I've been through seasons where I prayed and heard nothing back. Times when the heavens felt closed. Moments when I thought maybe I'd been forgotten. And I'll be honest with you, it's easy to mistake God's silence for absence. But I've come to understand something. Silence doesn't mean He's gone. Silence means He's working on something bigger than you can see. It means He's setting things in place that require precision. It means He's protecting you from details you're not ready to carry yet. The silence is often the sound of preparation. I think about how a master builder works. You don't hear the foundation being laid the same way you hear the hammer hitting the frame. But the foundation, that's where the strength is. That's where the structure gets its stability. And you can't rush that part. God's silence works the same way. It's not empty. It's focused. It's measured. It's Him making sure that when the change comes, it can stand. So if you've been in that space, feeling like nothing's happening, let me tell you, don't lose heart. That silence might be the loudest proof that He's been working on your behalf. And while He's been working, you've been building too, maybe without even realizing it. Every time you've kept going when you didn't feel like it, you were laying bricks. Every time you stayed kind, when you could have lashed out, you were reinforcing the walls. Every prayer you whispered under your breath when you were too tired to say more than a sentence, that was part of the structure. Your persistence, your unwillingness to quit, has been creating the foundation for what's about to come next. See, persistence is a strange thing. It doesn't always feel like power in the moment. Sometimes it feels like dragging yourself forward 1 inch at a time. But over time, it becomes strength. It becomes character. And more importantly, it becomes the thing God can build on. Because when the blessing comes, when the breakthrough arrives, it's not just about receiving it. It's about holding it, living in it, walking in it. And that takes a foundation. Without it, the weight of the blessing could crush you. But you've been prepared for this. Your endurance has done more than keep you alive. It's made you ready. I've seen too many people receive something too soon and lose it because they weren't ready to handle it. That's why the waiting mattered. That's why the long nights mattered. That's why the tears you cried in private mattered. You were being readied, not punished. You were being strengthened, not forgotten. Every moment you chose to keep your faith intact was a brick in the wall. And now, when the shift happens, you'll be able to stand under the weight of it. Not because it's light, but because you're stronger. Think about it. If you had received what you were asking for back when you first started praying, would you have been able to sustain it? Could you have managed the responsibility? Could you have handled the attacks that came with it? For most of us, the answer is no. And that's not a bad thing. It's just the truth. But now you've been through enough to know how to protect what's yours. Now you've learned the discipline, the patience, and the discernment to tell the difference between a gift and a distraction. So when that thing you thought would never change suddenly turns, don't just celebrate. Recognize it for what it is. It's not just a win. It's a reward for endurance. It's proof that nothing is fixed when God's in the equation. And I want you to carry that with you into the next chapter, because this isn't going to be the last challenge you face. But after this, you'll have a memory, a testimony, a landmark moment you can look back on and say, I saw him do it before. I know he can do it again. There's something else I want to say here, because I've seen it happen. When the change comes, it might not happen the way you pictured it. You might have your eyes fixed on one door, waiting for it to swing open. And then God comes through a window you didn't even know was there. Don't miss it because you're looking in the wrong place. Stay open. Stay ready. Because sometimes the reversal doesn't look like a miracle at first glance. It looks like a conversation, a phone call, an introduction, a decision that seems small, but ends up altering everything. And here's where maturity comes in. When you've lived a little, when you've carried some weight, you learn that not every blessing announces itself. Some arrive quietly and require you to recognize them. You'll need to listen to that shift inside you, the peace that settles where anxiety used to live, the confidence that grows where uncertainty used to rule. That's your indicator. That's how you'll know the unchangeable thing is changing. I'm telling you this because I don't want you to be caught off guard by your own breakthrough. I don't want you to doubt it when it starts, thinking it's too good to be true. You've been built for this. You've endured for this, and you've got the foundation to walk in it without losing yourself. That's the real victory. Not just that the situation changes, but that you're still the person God shaped you to be when it does. So as you step forward from here, hold on to this truth. The same God who can reverse the irreversible has been preparing you just as much as he's been preparing the blessing. The silence wasn't abandonment. It was strategy. The delay wasn't denial. It was training. And the persistence you've shown, that was your part in the partnership. You kept showing up. You kept holding on. You kept believing even when you had nothing left to go on but belief itself. And now, you're about to see why that mattered. You've stood in rooms that told you this will never change, but you didn't let the room define your reality. You've heard voices say, it's too late, but you kept moving anyway. You've lived through seasons where the repetition felt like a prison, but you didn't stop dreaming of a way out. That's why this reversal, this divine turning, is going to mean so much. Because it's not just about fixing a situation. It's about affirming that every ounce of strength, every choice to persevere, was worth it. When it happens, take a moment to breathe it in. Mark it in your heart. Let it remind you that nothing is beyond his reach. And then, keep building. Because this isn't the end of your story. It's the foundation for the next one. You know, sometimes life's got a way of making you forget who you really are. You've been through enough storms that your faith, the thing that used to burn bright inside you, starts feeling like an ember you can barely see anymore. You don't lose it all at once. It just gets quieter, buried under responsibilities, under disappointments, under that steady drip of maybe it's just not meant to happen. And before you know it, you're living on autopilot. But let me tell you something I've learned the hard way. That ember, it doesn't die. It waits. It waits for the right moment, the right breath, the right wind to catch it and turn it into a flame again. And every hard thing you've been through, every season you thought was wasted, every long night you spent wondering if you'd missed your chance, It was all feeding that ember. It was all shaping you into somebody who can carry the weight of what's coming. See, trials aren't just obstacles. They're preparation. They strip away what's shallow, they cut through what's fake, and they leave you with what's real. And if you've lived long enough, you know that what's real is the only thing that lasts. That disappointment that almost broke you, it taught you how to stand when the ground's shaking. That loss that hollowed you out, it made space for something deeper to live in you. That season when everybody else seemed to be moving forward, but you were stuck, that was your training ground. Now here's the part folks don't like to hear, and I get it. I've been there myself. The waiting season is not punishment. It's not God forgetting about you. It's not life passing you by. It's a pause with a purpose. You've been asking for answers, for direction, for breakthrough, but what good is a door opening if you're not ready to walk through it? That's why the waiting's been long. Because when it opens, you're not just gonna step in, you're gonna own the room. There's a moment when the waiting stops. And that moment doesn't come from your effort, your hustle, your network, your timing. It comes when God says, now. Not maybe now, not let's see if you're ready. No. When He steps in with authority, it's final. The season shifts. The chains that wouldn't budge, they break. The opportunities that were locked, they swing wide. And you won't need to question it because you'll feel it in your bones. The same way you know the sun's up before you even open your eyes. I've seen it. I've lived it. One day you're carrying the same old burdens, walking the same old road. Nothing's changing. And then something shifts in the air. And you realize you're not walking alone anymore. You realize that every mile you traveled in the dark was bringing you to this very spot. That the thing you've been praying for, crying over, even gave up on. It's here, standing in front of you, because the author of your story just turned the page. His word, His promise, is the bridge between where you've been and where you're going. You can't build that bridge yourself. You'd run out of wood, you'd run out of nails, you'd run out of strength. But His word, it's unshakable. It's the kind of bridge that holds in the flood, the kind that doesn't collapse when the weight hits. And if you've been living like you're still stuck on the wrong side of the river, I'm telling you, start walking. That bridge is already there. Now let's deal with something we don't talk about enough, the poison of comparison. You've been looking at other people's lives like they're the measuring stick for your own. They got the promotion first. They found love first. They bought the house, the car, the peace you've been trying to get. And you're sitting there wondering why it's so hard for you when it seems so easy for them. Let me break it to you gently, but clearly. Comparison is a thief. It robs you blind. It takes your joy, your gratitude, your focus, and replaces it with bitterness you don't even recognize at first. And it's not just about envy. It's about distraction. While you're busy watching their chapter, you're neglecting the one you're supposed to be living. And you don't know their whole story. You don't know the weight they carry behind closed doors. Some of the most put-together people you've ever seen are falling apart the minute they get home. Some of the success you're chasing in other people's lives is built on ground you wouldn't want to stand on. So stop looking sideways. Your race was never meant to match theirs. Your blessing was tailored for you. Your route was mapped for you. And if you try to wear someone else's journey, it won't fit. And let's talk about that other poison. Long-standing disappointment. The kind that settles in your bones, The kind that makes you stop expecting good things because you're tired of being let down. I get it. You stop asking. You stop hoping. You tell yourself you're being realistic. But what you're really doing is building walls where there should be windows. That's what the waiting season can do if you let it twist you. It can turn you cynical. But here's what I need you to hear. God's not asking you to pretend it hasn't been hard. He's asking you to remember that hard doesn't mean hopeless. Every delay, every detour, every door that stayed closed, it wasn't wasted. It was moving pieces you couldn't see into place. It was protecting you from things you didn't even know could hurt you. It was setting the stage so when the curtain lifts, the scene's ready. I've had doors slam in my face that I thought were my shot. I've had roles I wanted, seasons I thought I was prepared for, relationships I thought were right, all taken away. And it hurt. But looking back now, I can see that if I'd gotten some of those things when I wanted them, they would have crushed me. I wasn't ready. The spotlight I thought I could handle would have burned me out before I even started shining. That's why you can't rush this. Because when the author writes now in your script, it's because he knows you can carry it. And when it happens, you won't be scrambling to keep up. You'll be walking in it like you were born for it. So here's my advice for anyone in that in-between space. The place where it feels like nothing's moving. Keep your ears open. Keep your heart soft. Keep your eyes off of what everybody else is doing. You're not late. You're not forgotten. You're being readied. And when the time comes, you'll know. Not because the calendar says so. Not because the crowd says so. But because every piece of you will feel it. And if you're sitting here thinking, but it's been so long, let me remind you, delay is not denial. Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it's not on its way. The postman doesn't throw the letter away just because traffic was bad. The package doesn't disappear just because it got delayed. Your answer is still on schedule, even if the delivery time looks different than you thought. Every trial you faced was shaping your character, sharpening your discernment, deepening your roots. You've been in training, whether you knew it or not. And when this new chapter starts, you're going to find yourself using the very things you learned in those dark seasons to walk in the light you've been promised. Don't despise the waiting. Don't despise the trial. Because when you step into the fulfillment of what's been spoken over your life, you're going to see it all differently. You'll understand why it had to be this way. You'll thank God for the delays, for the detours, for the nights you thought were endless. Because they made you ready. And ready is exactly what you need to be when the word comes down that the waiting is over. You ever notice how sometimes people just drift out of your life? People you thought would be with you for the long haul start to fade. Doors you were sure would stay open start to close. And sometimes it feels like the floor's shifting under your feet. You look around and the faces have changed. The scenery's different. The familiar patterns aren't there anymore. At first, it's unsettling. You wonder what you did wrong, or if you missed a cue, or if somehow you drove the right people away. But my dear friend, life has a way of clearing the table when you least expect it. The truth is, some departures are not losses. They're divine removals. They are God's way of making space for what's next. See, we have a habit of holding on to people, places, and positions long after their season in our lives has ended. We confuse loyalty with permanence, thinking that because someone's been part of our story, they're meant to be in every chapter. But the author knows the arc better than we do. He knows when a character's role is complete. And when he ushers someone out, it's not always because they were bad. It's because they no longer fit the shape of the story he's writing for you. And here's the good part. God doesn't just take away. Every removal comes with a replacement. But his replacements are upgrades. The people who step into your life after a divine removal are aligned with your purpose. They don't just fill space. They bring something essential you didn't even realize you were missing. They speak to your spirit. They push you forward without agenda. They see you without needing an introduction to your pain when you've endured as long as you have. And I know some of you have been carrying a weight for years. The very fact that you're still standing is a testimony to grace. You've weathered storms and you didn't fold. You've walked through fire and you didn't burn. That's why this next season is not about survival. It's about recognition. The word says in 1 Peter 5:10, "And the God of all grace, who called you to his eternal glory in Christ after you have suffered a little while, will himself restore you and make you strong, firm, and steadfast." That's not just poetry. That's a promise. And when you see the right people stepping into your life, the right doors swinging open, the right resources landing in your lap, you'll know you're watching that verse come alive. Now you might be wondering, how will I know when it's happening? How will I recognize the replacements from the distractions? Pay attention to the subtle signs. Sometimes it's a text message that comes at just the right moment, offering exactly what you needed to hear. Sometimes it's an unexpected invitation, one that pulls you into a room you didn't even know you belonged in. And yet, when you step inside, it feels like home. Other times, it's a conversation with someone you barely know. But their words land like they were custom fit for your heart. That's how divine replacements move. Quietly, almost invisibly at first, but always with precision. The right people and opportunities don't just show up randomly, they are placed. They arrive at the intersection of your readiness and God's timing. And then there are the solutions, the ones that blindside you in the best way possible. You've been looking at a problem from one angle, wearing yourself out trying to solve it, and then, out of nowhere, the answer comes from a direction you never considered. Maybe it's a stranger offering help. Maybe it's a door you thought was closed that suddenly swings wide. Maybe it's a skill you didn't even know you had that rises up in you when you need it most. That's how you know God's in it. It works in ways you couldn't have orchestrated, even if you tried. But here's what I've seen in my own life, and I've got the scars to prove it. Before the right replacements arrive, there's often a clearing. And that clearing can feel like loss. It can feel like you're being stripped down to nothing. People start drifting. Opportunities evaporate. The phone gets quiet. The invitations stop coming. And in that silence, your first instinct might be to chase after what's leaving, to grab hold and pull it back. But I'm telling you, don't fight the pruning. If you keep holding on to what God is removing, you make it harder for the new to take root. You've got to trust that when He takes something out of your life, it's because it no longer serves your growth. And when He brings something new, it's because it's exactly what your next chapter demands. This isn't about convenience. It's about calling. There's a kind of peace that comes when you stop mourning what's gone and start watching for what's coming. It's not always easy. We're human. We attach. We build our routines around people and places, and when they're gone, it feels like part of us is gone too. But what I've learned and maybe you've learned it too, is that God's replacements don't just fill the space. They restore the part of you that was drained in the last season. They bring laughter where there was heaviness, hope where there was disappointment, clarity where there was confusion. And I'll tell you something else. The right replacements will never require you to shrink yourself to keep them. They'll meet you where you are, but they'll also call you higher. They'll challenge you without tearing you down. They'll make you better without making you feel small. That's how you know they're sent. Now don't miss this. Divine replacements aren't just about people. They can be about situations, environments, even the way you see yourself. Sometimes God replaces a mindset. He takes away the habit of doubt and gives you a spirit of expectation. He removes the language of, "I can't," and replaces it with, "I will." He shifts you from just surviving to actually living. And that shift will change everything around you, because what's inside you always shows up on the outside. Think about the Israelites in the wilderness. They had to let go of Egypt before they could step into the promised land. And it wasn't just about leaving a place. It was about replacing a slave mentality with a free one. God couldn't let them walk into Canaan thinking like captives. And He can't let you step into your next season carrying the same fears, the same doubts, the same limited vision that kept you stuck in the last one. So, if you've been in a season of loss, of change, of unfamiliar ground, don't panic. Look closer. The clearing is making room. The silence is giving you space to hear the knock when it comes. The absence is creating hunger for the right presence. And when that knock comes, when the new steps in, you'll recognize it. You won't have to force it. You won't have to second guess it. It'll fit. It'll bring peace. And it'll make you wonder why you ever thought you had to settle for less. That's the beauty of divine replacements. They don't just add to your life. They align it. They bring the people, the opportunities, the answers that match not just your needs, but your destiny. And when you look back, you'll see that every goodbye, every closed door, every season of empty chairs was leading you right here. So, keep your eyes open. Keep your heart ready. Don't chase what's leaving. Don't fear what's arriving. Trust that the one who writes your story knows exactly who and what belongs in this next chapter. And that when it's time, the replacements will come right on cue. I know there are moments in life when you can feel something shifting even before you can name it. You can sense that the ground under your feet isn't the same, that the air feels different, that something is in motion just beyond your sight. And in those moments, the most important thing you can do is stay close. Close to the source, close to the truth, close to the voice that's been guiding you this whole time. Because if you pull away now, if you drift because you can't see the whole picture, you risk missing what all those years of endurance have been building toward. You've been holding on through seasons where the return didn't seem to match the investment. You've given without applause, served without recognition, kept your commitments even when the weight of them felt like too much. You didn't quit. You didn't walk away when you could have. And that kind of faithfulness doesn't go unnoticed. It leaves a mark in the unseen. It calls for a response. That's why this moment matters. Because what's unfolding now is not random. It's a direct answer to the life you've been living in the quiet. When I say stay close, I mean more than just showing up on Sundays or saying a prayer before bed. I mean cultivating the kind of closeness where you recognize the smallest nudge, the faintest whisper, and you respond like you've been waiting for it all along. This isn't the time to get distracted by noise. The noise will always be there. The opinions, the fears, the old doubts trying to talk you out of believing. But you've got to keep your ear tuned to the frequency that's been speaking life into you from the very start. Because here's the truth. What's damaged in your life is not beyond repair. What's been fractured, bent out of shape, worn thin from years of strain, it can be restored. I've seen relationships that looked finished become stronger than they ever were. I've seen people carry scars for decades, only to wake up one morning and realize they don't hurt anymore. I've seen dreams that were packed away like they didn't matter suddenly come alive because the time was finally right. That's what happens when you stay close. The healing starts before you even realize it's begun. Now, healing doesn't always look the way you expect. Sometimes it's quiet. It's a gradual loosening of the grip that pain had on you. Other times, it's sudden. A weight you've been carrying so long that you forgot what lightness felt like just falls away. But either way, the key is proximity. The further you wander from the source, the harder it is to receive what's meant for you. The closer you stay, the more you start to notice that the pieces are coming back together, and they're fitting in ways they never did before. You've got to understand, this is a turning point. There's a difference between change and a turning point. Change is something that happens over time, little by little. A turning point is the moment everything you've been through starts working together towards something new. And right now, that moment is here. The faithfulness you've shown, the quiet acts of service, the way you've stayed steady even when you were tired, all of it has brought you to this place. You may not have thought anyone noticed. You may have convinced yourself it didn't matter. But I'm telling you, it mattered more than you know. Faithfulness is never wasted. It's not just about the big gestures, it's about the consistency. It's about showing up when nobody's watching, doing the right thing because it's the right thing, keeping your word even when it costs you. That's the kind of character that gets refined in the waiting. And it's the kind of character that gets rewarded when the timing is right. And right now, the timing is right. The kind of transformation you're about to step into isn't surface level. It's not about polishing up what's already there. It's about reworking the foundation. Deep change. The kind of change that shifts the way you see yourself, the way you carry yourself, the way you respond to life. And it all starts with that unwavering trust. The trust that says, I may not see it yet, but I believe it's coming. That's the kind of trust that's not easily shaken. It's built over years of walking through valleys and coming out the other side. It's forged in the moments you thought you couldn't go on, but you did anyway. It's tested when the answers don't come on your schedule and the doors you wanted to walk through stay locked. But every one of those moments has been adding weight to your faith, giving it roots so deep that no storm can pull them up. This transformation you're headed toward, it's going to surprise people. It's going to make some of them stop and wonder how it happened, what changed, what you did differently. And you'll know the answer. You stayed close. You didn't give up when it would have been easier to. You didn't let the bitterness of waiting poison you. You didn't compare your journey to someone else's and decide yours wasn't worth finishing. You stayed connected to the only voice that could lead you through. And now you're walking into what's been promised all along. But hear me on this. Staying close isn't just about the reward. It's about the relationship. Because what's the point of stepping into something new if you're not bringing with you the same connection that got you there? Too many people treat God like a finish line. They run to Him when they need something, and then once they get it, they drift. But if you've been through enough in this life, you know you can't afford to drift. The same closeness that brought you here is the closeness that will keep you standing once you're here. That's why this moment isn't the end. It's the beginning of something deeper. The more you lean in, the more you'll hear. The more you listen, the more you'll see. And the more you see, the more you'll understand that everything, the pain, the patience, the perseverance, was leading you to a place you wouldn't trade for anything. Some of you are sitting here thinking, I've been close before and I still went through hard times. I get that. I've been there. But here's what I know. Being close doesn't mean you won't face storms. It means you won't face them alone. It means when the wind picks up and the waves start hitting, you've got an anchor that holds. It means when the ground shifts, you've got a hand steadying you. And that hand doesn't let go. Not when you're faithful to hold on. So, if you're tired, if you've been wondering whether it's worth it to keep believing, I'm here to tell you, it is. Because this is the season when the long faith, the stubborn faith, the faith that's been tested and refined, is going to open doors you couldn't pry open on your own. And when those doors open, you'll step through not as the same person who started the journey, but as someone who's been changed from the inside out. Stay close. Keep your faith locked in. Keep your ears open. Don't let the noise pull you away from what you know to be true. Because healing is already happening. Restoration is already in motion. The turning point is already here. And if you can hold on just a little longer, you're going to see the kind of transformation that doesn't just change your circumstances, it changes you. I remember reading an interview with Tyler Perry, and he talked about the years before anyone knew his name. Years when he was sleeping in his car, writing plays nobody was coming to see, putting his heart into work that wasn't paying off. He said there were moments when he thought maybe all that effort was for nothing. But he kept going, kept showing up, kept writing even when there was no stage, no audience. And when his breakthrough finally came, he realized something powerful. Not a single one of those years was wasted. Every script, every sleepless night, every empty theater seat, it was all part of the foundation. And when the opportunity came, he was ready because he had already been faithful in the unseen. That's the truth I want you to hold on to. No effort is ever forgotten. Not the prayers whispered in the dark. Not the kindness you gave without expecting it back. Not the sacrifices you made for people who never even said thank you. Those moments are like seeds, and they don't just vanish. They go into the ground, and in the right season, they grow. Sometimes the harvest looks nothing like the seed you planted, but it's always connected. Every act of love, every decision to stay when it would have been easier to leave, every time you kept your word when no one was watching, all of it has been recorded, and all of it matters. And now, this is the season when what was stored up is coming back to you. This is the time for healing the memories that still ache when you think about them. I'm talking about those moments you've learned to live around. The conversation you never got to finish. The goodbye you didn't see coming. The betrayal that took your breath away. You've carried them for years, maybe decades, building your life around the pain because you thought it would never leave. But here's the thing. You're not meant to carry it forever. Healing doesn't erase the memory. It changes the way it lives inside you. It takes the sting out. It closes the wound so you can touch the scar without flinching. That healing isn't just for your own peace. It's going to be a lifeline for someone else. Because the truth is, your strength doesn't come from avoiding hardship. It comes from living through it and still choosing to stand. The courage you've built walking through your own fire is exactly what someone else will need to see when they're standing in theirs. Your testimony, the real one, with all the mess and all the miracle, is going to remind somebody that they can make it too. God said in Isaiah 41:10, "So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." That's not just a nice verse for a coffee mug. That's the reality for anyone who's walked with him long enough to know that when you thought you were alone, he was still right there. When you thought you were holding yourself up, he was the one holding you. And I promise you, there's nothing like the moment you realize you've never actually carried the weight by yourself. I can't tell you how many times I thought I was standing on my own strength, only to look back later and see God's fingerprints all over the situation. There were times I should have fallen apart, but didn't. Times I should have given up, but somehow kept going. And the older I get, the more I realize that wasn't willpower. That was him. Always him. Quietly steadying me, even when I didn't know to ask. Restoration is like that. It's rarely loud. It's often a slow turning, a steady rebuilding of what you thought was gone for good. Sometimes it starts with a small shift. A conversation you thought would be tense, but ends in peace. A memory that used to break you, but now makes you grateful for how far you've come. Other times, it's big and unmistakable. A relationship mended after years of silence, a reputation rebuilt where it was once torn down, a door opened that everyone said would stay closed. And here's what's important to understand. Restored honor isn't about proving people wrong. It's not about walking into a room and saying, "See, I told you." It's about God placing you exactly where you're meant to be, with exactly the people you're meant to walk with, doing exactly what you were created to do. It's about lifting your head without shame, not because you never fell, but because grace picked you back up. When God restores honor, he doesn't just patch things together. He makes it better than it was before. Think about Job. He lost everything, his family, his health, his wealth, and still he held on to his faith. And when God restored him, he didn't just give back what Job had lost. He gave him twice as much as before. That's the kind of restoration we're talking about. It's not just enough, it's abundance. It's the kind that makes people ask, "How did you get here after all you've been through?" And your answer will be simple. I didn't get here alone. That's why this season isn't just about mending what's broken. It's about reestablishing your place, your voice, your dignity. There are parts of you that got buried under years of survival, and now they're coming back to life. You're remembering dreams you thought were gone. You're finding joy in things that used to feel like work. You're speaking up in rooms where you once stayed silent. That's restored honor. It changes the way you see yourself and the way the world sees you. And maybe you're wondering, why now? Why not years ago, when I was asking for it? Timing matters. If restoration had come too soon, you might have settled for just getting back to where you were before. But God's aim is higher. He doesn't want to take you back. He wants to take you forward. That means he's been working on you in ways you didn't even notice, shaping you to carry what's coming next without it crushing you. So don't be surprised if the first signs of restoration are small. Maybe it's a phone call from someone you thought you'd never hear from again. Maybe it's a door opening in your career that seemed closed for good. Maybe it's waking up one morning with a sense of peace you haven't felt in years. Don't dismiss those moments. They're the early light of a new day breaking. And as the light grows, you'll see the full picture. The painful chapters weren't wasted. The heartbreak wasn't pointless. The seasons of silence weren't empty. They were all part of a process that brought you to a place of wholeness you couldn't have reached any other way. And now, the honor that's being restored isn't just for you. It's a testimony. It's proof that no matter how far you've fallen, no matter how much has been broken, nothing is beyond the reach of His restoration. You won't be carrying the load alone anymore. Not because the challenges will disappear, life will still be life, but because you'll finally see that the same God who carried you here will carry you forward. And when you know that, you walk differently. You speak differently. You live like someone who's been carried by grace. So take this season seriously. Let the healing go all the way down to the roots. Let the restoration be complete, not just in your circumstances, but in your heart, in your identity, in your relationships. This is your time to lift your head, stand in your place, and know beyond a shadow of a doubt that you are whole. You are seen, and you are walking with the One who has been with you all along. My friend, lean in now. I need you to really hear me. Don't let your mind wander. Don't let your attention slip. This is important. You cannot hold on to what you know is finished and still expect to receive what's coming next. You can't clutch the old season with one hand and try to grab the new one with the other. Something's got to be released for your arms to be open enough to receive what's being placed in them. And I know, letting go is hard. You've invested in this. You've prayed over it, cried over it, maybe even built parts of your identity around it. But there comes a moment when keeping it is costing you more than releasing it. That moment is here. What's ahead for you requires space. And space doesn't just happen, it's created. You make room by setting down what's been taking up your hands, your thoughts, your energy. Sometimes that means people. Sometimes it means old dreams that don't fit anymore. Sometimes it means the version of yourself you've been carrying around. The one shaped by old wounds, old patterns, old expectations. Let it go. Make room for the life you've been praying for, even if you don't yet know exactly what it will look like when it shows up. Here's what I've learned about transformation. The real kind, the deep kind. It doesn't start where people can see it. It starts in the quiet, in the parts of you no one else has access to. It starts when you decide to think differently about yourself. When you stop telling the old stories that keep you small. When you let God touch the hidden places you've been trying to manage on your own. The change begins inside. And long before it shows up in your circumstances, it's shaping your perspective, your choices, your reactions. And because it starts inside, it can be easy to doubt it's happening at all. People around you may not notice yet. You might not even be able to explain it. But something's shifting. You're responding differently to things that used to get under your skin. You're finding peace in situations where you used to be restless. You're starting to believe that what's ahead is actually better than what's behind, and that belief is making you lighter. That's the sound of transformation beginning to hum beneath the surface. Don't rush this stage. The inner work is what will sustain the outer change. If you skip it, the new things God brings into your life won't have anywhere solid to land. you'll be so focused on keeping up appearances that you won't have the strength to actually live in the blessing. But if you let Him do the inside work first, the outer shift will feel natural. You won't be scrambling to adjust. You'll already be aligned. And here's the part I love. His promises don't expire. They don't have an end date stamped on them. I don't care how much time has passed, how far you feel you've drifted, how many detours you've taken. If He said it, it still stands. The world might tell you, you missed your moment. People might act like your time is over, but you need to hear me. God is not bound by your clock. He's not looking at a calendar wondering if it's too late. His word over your life is still alive. That's why you can't measure your future by what's visible right now. You can't look at the empty spaces and think they're the whole story. Empty spaces are preparation spaces. Think about a potter. Before he shapes the clay, he clears the wheel. Before a builder starts construction, they clear the site. And before God brings the fulfillment of a promise, He clears the ground of anything that can't hold the weight of what's coming. Sometimes, that clearing feels like loss. You might watch people walk away, see opportunities close, feel doors slam. And in the moment, it hurts. But what's really happening is that the old is making way for the new. You can't build a house on a foundation that's already cracked. And you can't step into a God-given future while you're still clinging to things that are holding you to the past. I've lived this. There were seasons in my life when I thought I'd been stripped down to nothing. The phone stopped ringing. The roles weren't coming. The people I thought were my circle started disappearing. I didn't realize at the time that God was removing what couldn't go with me into the next level. And when the new season came, I understood. If I tried to drag all that baggage into it, I wouldn't have made it a month. He knew what He was doing, and He knows what He's doing with you. The transformation you're stepping into is not random. It's been in the works longer than you realize. And it's not just about changing your circumstances, it's about changing your capacity. He's making you into someone who can hold more without breaking, stand taller without wavering, love deeper without fear. That's the kind of transformation that doesn't fade when the initial excitement wears off. But here's the thing. Transformation requires participation. You can't just sit back and watch it happen like a show. You've got to agree with it. You've got to start speaking like someone who believes the promise is still good. You've got to make decisions like someone who expects good things ahead. You've got to act like the person you're becoming, not the person you used to be. That's how you align yourself with the change that's already unfolding. You may have to practice saying no to some things that used to get your yes, not because they're bad, but because they're not part of where you're going. You may have to resist the temptation to explain yourself to people who don't understand the season you're in. You may have to walk alone for a while before you find the new community that fits the new you. But every one of those choices is making space for what's next. And as you walk this out, you're going to notice something beautiful. The peace. Even before the outer evidence is clear, you'll feel it in your spirit. That deep knowing that you're exactly where you're supposed to be. That you're moving in step with something bigger than you. It won't mean everything's perfect. It will mean you're steady, even in the imperfection. That's how you know the transformation is real. So here's what I'm telling you, my friend. Don't fear the letting go. Don't resist the clearing. Trust that the empty space in your hands today will be filled with something far better tomorrow. Let the inside work take its full course, so that when the outside change comes, you're ready to live it without fear or hesitation. And never, ever think that because it's taking time, the promise has faded. His word stands, always. You're standing at the threshold of something new. And when you step through, you're not just stepping into a different set of circumstances. You're stepping into a different version of yourself. One that's lighter because you let go of what you didn't need. One that's stronger because you let the inside be rebuilt first. One that's ready because you trusted that every delay, every loss, every silent season was making space for exactly this moment. So take a breath, open your hands, and walk forward. The transformation has already begun. Let me tell you something that's going to mess with the way you've been looking at your own story. You ready? What you thought was a wall was actually a signpost. The thing you called a dead end was a turn you were meant to take. And the detours you were so frustrated by, those were the very roads that got you here. That's the kind of shift we're talking about now. The moment when hindsight turns your obstacles into evidence. Evidence that you weren't wandering. Evidence that you weren't abandoned. Evidence that, the whole time, there was a hand on the wheel, steering you exactly where you needed to go. See, there's a point in your journey where what you've been through stops feeling like baggage and starts feeling like a map. You begin to see the patterns, how certain doors closed so you wouldn't walk into the wrong room, how certain relationships ended so the right ones could begin, how certain opportunities passed you by because they weren't actually meant for you. That's not coincidence. That's orchestration. That's a designer who knows your route better than you do. And the beauty of reaching this point is that you carry a different kind of presence. Your voice has weight now. It's not just about volume, it's about resonance. When you speak, people lean in because they can hear the truth of a lived life in your words. They can hear that you've been somewhere, that you felt the heat of the fire and still walked out with your faith intact. That's influence. Not the kind you chase, but the kind that comes from endurance and authenticity. You might not even notice it at first. You'll just be sharing a story or offering advice or speaking encouragement to someone who's struggling, and then you'll see it. The way their eyes change, the way their shoulders drop like a weight's been lifted. That's when you'll realize your life itself is a testimony. You don't have to force it, don't have to script it, don't have to prove it. You are the proof. Every scar, every lesson, every step you kept taking when you wanted to stop. It's all speaking louder than you know. And here's where it gets even more beautiful. The proof isn't just in the big victories. It's in the small details, the ones you might overlook if you're not paying attention. It's in the way you've learned to pause before you speak, to choose peace over winning an argument. It's in the way you notice someone's quiet struggle because you've been there yourself. It's in the way you find gratitude in things you used to take for granted. Those moments are small in size, but they're huge in meaning. They're markers of transformation that no one can take from you. The small things matter because they're the daily proof that the change is real. Anyone can have a big moment of triumph, but it takes a true shift inside to live differently in the everyday. It's in how you handle disappointment now. It's in how you carry yourself through uncertainty. It's in how you react when the old triggers show up, but you choose a new response. That's the fruit of the journey, and it speaks louder than any announcement you could make. And here's the part you need to let settle deep. You don't have to carry yourself through this next stretch by sheer force anymore. You've been in seasons where you felt like you had to hold everything together with your own hands, where every step forward was a push against resistance. That's not this season. This is the season where the guiding comes from above, where the steps are ordered in ways you couldn't plan if you tried. You're not driving this thing alone anymore. You're moving in rhythm with the one who knows exactly where you're going and how to get you there. That means you can breathe a little easier now. Not because there won't be challenges, but because you'll know you're not meeting them by yourself. You'll start noticing a pattern. A door opens just when you need it. A conversation happens right on time. A solution appears from a place you never would have looked. And the more you see it, the more your trust will grow. You'll stop straining to make things happen in your own strength and start leaning into the fact that you've got divine direction. This shift is more than just about you. Your life will start becoming a kind of living roadmap for others. They'll watch you navigate things with grace, with clarity, with patience, and they'll want to know how you're doing it. And you'll have the chance to point them to the source, not with a sermon, but with the steady witness of your own walk. Understand this. The proof through your life is not about perfection. It's not about pretending the hard days never come. It's about showing that even on the hard days, there's a deeper anchor holding you steady. It's about showing that faith isn't just a word you say. It's a reality you live, quietly, consistently, in ways that add up over time. So, as this next chapter unfolds, pay attention to the little confirmations. The text that comes right when you needed encouragement. The opportunity that feels tailor-made for your gifts. The moment of peace that hits you in the middle of a storm. Those aren't random. They're signposts saying you're on the right track. Let them remind you that your life is becoming living evidence of what you've believed in the dark. And maybe the most powerful proof will be the way you carry yourself now. Not hurried, not desperate, not afraid. There's a kind of quiet confidence that settles in when you know you're being led. And that confidence will speak to people louder than any explanation could. They'll see it in your eyes, hear it in your voice, feel it in the way you're present in the moment. That's the kind of influence you can't buy and you can't fake. It only comes from walking the road, mile after mile, with faith as your companion. So let your life do the talking. Let the scars tell their story. Let the details show the depth of the change. Walk knowing that every step you take now is lit, not by your own flashlight, but by the path that's been prepared for you. You are not carrying this alone. You never were. But now you know it, and that knowing is the proof. There comes a moment when the pace changes. You've been walking for so long at the same slow, steady rhythm that it's almost all you know. You've learned to live in the waiting, learned to take each day as it comes, learned how to stand still without losing your balance. But then, without warning, you feel the ground moving faster beneath you. Doors that were locked start swinging open. Conversations that were stuck in maybe turn into yes. Delays that used to stretch for months suddenly collapse into days. My friend, that's what acceleration feels like. It's not random. It's not coincidence. It's grace moving you forward faster than you thought possible. You need to understand something about delay. Just because it's been long doesn't mean it was wasted. Sometimes the waiting wasn't about holding you back. It was about building what you'd need when you got here. And now, because that foundation is in place, the speed can change. You're not running on fragile ground anymore. You're running on something that can hold you. That's why the time between seed and harvest is about to feel shorter. The prayers you planted years ago, the ones you thought might have gotten lost in the air. They're about to break the surface. I've seen it happen. A prayer you stopped mentioning because it hurt too much to keep asking. A dream you tucked away because you thought maybe it wasn't for you. An answer you once looked for every day, but eventually stopped expecting. And then, one ordinary afternoon, it shows up. Not halfway, not in pieces, fully formed, ready and right on time. It may not be the time you wanted, but it's the time you need. Because now, you're ready to carry it without dropping it. That's the grace of God's timing. It protects the gift by preparing the receiver. And when acceleration comes, you'll feel new life in places that felt barren for a long time. Parts of you that were shut down will wake up again. Joy that used to feel like work will start flowing naturally. Creativity that felt blocked will begin to pour out like it used to, maybe even stronger. Relationships that were dry will find fresh water running through them. You'll have energy for things you thought you were done with. Not because the work changed, but because you did. That's what happens when grace breathes into something. It starts moving again. The Bible says in John 8:32, "Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. And in that truth, there is safety." Because if you're walking in the truth, you're walking under the protection of the one who cannot fail. The world can throw chaos around you, but it can't touch the core of who you are when you're rooted in Him. Acceleration without protection will wear you out, but acceleration with His covering will carry you without breaking you. This protection doesn't mean there won't be challenges. It means the challenges won't be able to derail you. It means that when the pace picks up, you won't get lost in the rush. You'll still be steady inside, still able to hear the voice that's been guiding you all along. And that voice will keep you from chasing every open door, just because it's open. Acceleration is not about running through everything in front of you. It's about running through the right things at the right time. Here's what I want you to catch. Acceleration feels exciting, but it also demands focus. The faster you move, the more intentional you have to be. You can't carry every old burden into this pace. You can't entertain the same distractions and expect to stay on track. This season requires you to know what matters and guard it fiercely. Not everything deserves your time right now. Not every opportunity is your assignment. You have to be willing to say no to what's good so you can say yes to what's right. And you'll know what's right because grace has a signature. It's not frantic. It's not forced. It doesn't leave you drained or doubting. Grace brings peace even in the push. You can feel it when you're in step with it. Things align without you having to wrestle them into place. The conversation flows. The resources appear. The connection feels natural. And even when there's effort, it's the kind that energizes you instead of wearing you down. That's when you know you're moving in God's acceleration, not just your own ambition. This season will also remind you of something important. You were never meant to do it all on your own. When things start moving quickly, you'll see more clearly the hands that have been holding you up, the prayers that have been covering you, the unseen ways God has been keeping you steady. You'll realize that acceleration isn't just about getting somewhere faster. It's about realizing you were never running alone. And that awareness will make you grateful in a way that changes how you move from here on out. Gratitude is fuel in an accelerated season. Without it, speed can turn into entitlement, and entitlement can blind you to the very grace that's carrying you. But when you stay thankful for the answered prayers, for the closed doors that protected you, for the people who stood by you, you stay grounded. And being grounded keeps you from burning out. Now, let me warn you, acceleration can also expose. When things start happening quickly, whatever's inside you comes to the surface faster. If you've got unresolved bitterness, it'll rise up. If you've been hiding fear, it'll show. That's not a bad thing. It's a chance to deal with it before it trips you up. God doesn't accelerate you to watch you crash. He accelerates you to move you into your purpose. And part of that is making sure your character can carry the calling. So if things come up in you during this season that you thought were settled, don't be discouraged. It's just the refining working a little faster now. Let him deal with it. Let him clear it out so you can move freely. The less you're carrying, the easier it will be to keep pace with what he's doing. And finally, remember this. Acceleration is not a reward for being perfect. It's a sign of grace. It's not about earning your way forward. It's about being positioned for it. You've been faithful in the slow season. And now God is saying, let's go. And when he says that, nothing, not time, not obstacles, not opposition, can hold you back. What would have taken years can happen in months. What you thought was impossible can become normal. So get ready. This is not the time to shrink back or second guess. It's the time to lean forward, to match your steps with the one leading you, to let his grace set the pace. And as you move, stay in the truth. Stay under the covering, because in that place, acceleration won't just take you somewhere. It will keep you there. You'll not only arrive at the promise, you'll have the strength, the wisdom, and the peace to live in it fully. You ever notice how the higher you climb, the stronger the wind gets? The more purpose you carry, the more resistance you meet? That's not a coincidence. That's a clue. Opposition is rarely random. It has a way of showing up when you're carrying something valuable, when there's something inside you that the enemy would rather see shut down before it ever reaches its full weight in the world. And if you've been feeling pushback lately, if you've been dealing with obstacles that seem to come out of nowhere, I want you to hear me clearly. It's not because you're off course. It's because you're right on it. See, the enemy doesn't waste time fighting what isn't a threat. He's not going to bother you if you're going nowhere. But if your presence shifts the atmosphere, if your words lift somebody's spirit, if your life is proof that grace can carry a person through fire, you can expect the winds to pick up. Don't be fooled into thinking that resistance is a sign to turn back. Most of the time, it's confirmation you're headed in the right direction. But here's the thing. When you're walking with God, opposition can't take you out. It can't have your mind. It can't have your peace. Because the same hand that's guiding your steps is guarding your spirit. I've lived long enough to see him do it, in my own life and in the lives of others. I've seen people walk through storms that should have broken them and come out with their heads high and their faith stronger. Not because the wind wasn't real, but because they knew who was holding them steady. That protection isn't always about changing the circumstance right away. Sometimes it's about keeping you calm in the middle of it. It's about building a stillness inside you that doesn't get rattled by every wave. That's the part we don't always appreciate in the moment. The fact that God cares just as much about your inner peace as he does about your outer progress. He knows the real battle starts in the mind. That's why his protection starts there too. When you've got that kind of covering, you begin to walk differently. You stop reacting to everything thrown at you. You stop wasting energy on trying to prove your worth to people who don't have the power to define it. You stop letting every change in the wind knock you off your footing. And instead, you start moving with quiet confidence. Not because you've got it all figured out, but because you know you're not walking alone. And this is the season where a new kind of inner strength is going to reveal itself in you. Not the kind you had to force before. Not the kind that came from sheer willpower and grit. This is a deeper strength. The kind that's been built through endurance, through holding your ground when it would have been easier to quit. It's the strength of someone who's been tested and found steady. You may not even realize how much stronger you are now compared to where you started, but others will. They'll see it in the way you carry yourself, in the way you speak, in the way you stay composed when the unexpected happens. Inner strength isn't about becoming hard. It's about becoming unshakable without losing your softness. It's about being able to stand firm while still being kind, to hold your ground without closing your heart. That's the balance God's been working into you. Strength with compassion, courage with humility. And when you carry that combination, you're not just strong for yourself, you become a shelter for others. Now, I need to remind you of something the world will try to make you forget. Your value is not in what you do. It's not in the titles you hold, the roles you play, or the work you produce. Your value is in who you are. It's in the fact that you were created with intention, shaped with care, and filled with a purpose that doesn't depend on anyone's approval. You could lose the job, the platform, the position, and it wouldn't take away a single ounce of your worth. But we live in a culture that loves to measure people by output. How much you've achieved, how much you've earned, how much you've produced. And if you're not careful, you can start to think your worth rises and falls with your productivity. That's a lie. The truth is, you were valuable before you did anything, and you'll still be valuable if you never do another thing. That's the foundation you've got to stand on if you want to withstand the shifting opinions of others. When you know your value is rooted in your identity, not your activity, opposition loses its sting. Criticism can't define you. Setbacks can't shake you. Even the silence, those times when it feels like nothing's moving, can't convince you that you've been forgotten. You start to realize that those seasons are often the very ones God uses to prepare you for what's next. That's the essence of this preparation season. He's been reinforcing your foundation so that when acceleration comes, you can handle it. He's been teaching you to hear His voice above all the noise so that when the pace picks up, you don't get lost in the rush. He's been reminding you of your worth so that when people try to measure you by what you're doing, you won't forget who you are. And when this inner work is done, the outer fruit will be undeniable. You'll step into opportunities without fear because you'll know they're aligned with your purpose. You'll take on challenges without panic because you've been strengthened for them. You'll walk through open doors without wondering if you belong there because you'll already know you do. So don't resent the resistance. Don't despise the quiet. Don't wish away the preparation. Every bit of it is adding to the strength you're going to need when the next season unfolds. The pressure you've been under, it's been shaping you. The pushback you've faced, it's been proving your value. The peace you found in the middle of it, that's been the sign of His protection over your mind and your heart. Hold on to that. Let it sink deep. And remember, when you finally step into what's next, it won't be because you fought your way there alone. It'll be because you were made ready from the inside out. There comes a point in life where you have to put down the stick you've been using to beat yourself with. You know what I mean. That voice in your head that replays mistakes like they're on a loop. That tendency to go back over the what ifs and should haves until the joy gets drained out of the present moment. My friend, you've been carrying that too long. The season you're stepping into now will not be powered by self-blame. It will be fueled by grace. And grace doesn't just forgive what's behind you, it redeems it. You've got to stop punishing yourself for being human. Stop acting like every wrong turn disqualified you from a right future. God already factored your humanity into His plan. He knew the times you'd fall short. He knew the moments you'd lose your temper, the seasons you'd lose your focus, the relationships you'd mishandle, and still, He called you. Still, He gave you purpose. Still, He's leading you forward. If He's not holding it over your head, why are you? This is the time to let Him turn the sorrow you've been holding into a strength you didn't know you could carry. I've seen it happen. Someone walks through a loss so deep, it takes the color out of life. And for a while, they're just surviving. But somewhere along the way, that pain starts to transform. It doesn't disappear. It changes form. It becomes compassion. It becomes understanding. It becomes fuel to stand with someone else in their dark hour and say, I've been there, and you will make it through. That's the kind of strength sorrow can't take credit for, because it's not born from the wound. It's born from what God did with it. When He says He makes beauty from ashes, He's not speaking in metaphor. He's talking about a real exchange. And some of you are about to feel that exchange take place inside you. The heaviness you've been carrying for years is going to lift. Not because every situation has been resolved, but because He's taking the weight of it off your shoulders. You've gotten used to living under that pressure. So when it's gone, it might even feel strange at first, but that's what happens when long-standing emotional burdens are lifted. You suddenly realize how much of your energy was going into just holding it all together. That's why this season isn't about adding more to your plate. It's about being carried for a while. And that might be hard for you, especially if you've been the one holding everyone else up. You've gotten used to being the steady one, the strong one, the one people lean on. But hear me, you can't pour out what you don't have. And right now, God's not asking you to give more. He's asking you to receive. Let Him carry you the way you've carried others. Let Him fill you the way you've poured yourself out. And as you let yourself be lifted, you're going to feel parts of you come back to life that have been quiet for too long. That gentleness you thought had been hardened by years of struggle, it's still in you. That kindness you felt had been dulled by disappointment, it's still there. They've just been buried under survival mode. But when you're no longer fighting to make it through each day, those parts of you have room to breathe again. This restoration isn't just about emotions. It's about energy. And I don't mean the kind of energy that comes from a good night's sleep. I'm talking about the inner drive, the creative spark, the steady focus that gets dulled when you've been carrying too much for too long. You're going to feel that spark again. You're going to wake up with ideas, with joy, with a readiness to engage with life instead of just enduring it. I know some of you can't even remember what that feels like, but it's coming back. And it's coming back stronger because now it's rooted in something deeper than just feeling up or motivated. It's rooted in the peace of knowing you're not in this alone. That peace is going to guard your heart and mind in a way that keeps you from slipping back into the old weight. Don't underestimate what happens when you stop carrying more than you were built to. Your steps get lighter, your words get softer, your perspective widens. You start seeing possibilities where before you only saw problems. You start having patience where before you had nothing left to give. That's what renewal does. It doesn't just restore what you lost, it expands it, and people will notice. They may not be able to put it into words, but they'll feel it when you walk into the room. They'll sense that something in you has shifted, that you're moving with a calm strength, that your presence is a little lighter, but somehow more grounded. That's the fruit of being lifted, of letting yourself rest in the hands that have been holding you all along. So don't resist it. Don't rush to get back to doing. Take the time to actually receive the restoration being offered to you. It's not weakness to rest. It's wisdom. It's how you make sure that when you do step back into the work, the relationships, the responsibilities, you're bringing your whole self to it. Not the burnt out, running on empty version. The renewed, energized, deeply rooted version. And here's what I love about this kind of renewal. It doesn't fade when things get busy again. It lasts, because it's not dependent on the absence of challenges. It's built on the presence of God's strength in the middle of them. You'll still face hard days, but they won't drain you the way they used to. You'll still care deeply for people, but you won't carry them in a way that crushes you. You'll still work hard, but you'll do it from a place of overflow, not depletion. That's the beauty of what He's doing in you right now. He's not just putting a bandage over the tiredness. He's going to the source and replacing it with something better. And when you look back, you'll see that this season of being lifted was the turning point that gave you back not just your energy, but your softness, your kindness, and your joy. So let yourself be carried. Let the weight be lifted. Let the sorrow be turned into strength. This is not your time to push harder. It's your time to rise higher, carried by the one who knows exactly how to get you there. There's a kind of peace you can't fake. You can't manufacture it with positive thinking, and you can't buy it with a vacation. This peace comes when the noise inside finally goes quiet. When the voices of fear, regret, and comparison that used to run your thoughts lose their power to speak over you. When the pace in your head slows down enough for your spirit to catch its breath. My friend, that's where you're headed. Into a season where your mind rests again. For some of you, it's been a long time since you've known what it's like to sleep through the night without your brain running a marathon in the dark. You've carried decisions into bed, replayed conversations that already happened, worried about tomorrows that haven't come yet. But in this new cycle, you'll close your eyes and actually rest. You'll wake up without that heaviness pressing on your chest. You'll be able to trust the next day to God instead of trying to solve it before the sun comes up. And it won't just be your mind that gets cleared. The space around you will change too. Some of the relationships and environments that have been draining you will start to loosen their grip. You might not even have to force it. Sometimes, when God's bringing you into a new cycle, He shifts the atmosphere in such a way that certain things can't hold on to you anymore. People who've been pulling at your energy will either adjust or fade. Places that used to feel heavy will lose their pull on you. It's not rejection, it's release. This release is necessary because what's coming next requires space. You can't enter a new cycle weighed down by the same emotional entanglements that kept you from moving freely before. The grace that's about to flood your life will feel too light, too pure for those old weights to stay attached. And when you look around, you'll realize that the changes in your relationships and surroundings aren't loss. They're preparation. Because this is not just a fresh start. It's a season of grace. Grace like water over dry ground. Grace that seeps into the cracks of your life and fills them. Grace that doesn't just touch one part of you, but flows into every area. Your work, your home, your health, your creativity, your relationships. You'll find yourself moving in a rhythm that feels natural, as if life itself is leaning in your favor. That's the power of a new cycle in God's timing. You don't have to force it. And when you walk in that rhythm, you see purpose more clearly. You start noticing the difference between what's urgent and what's important. You stop wasting time on things that don't align with who you are becoming. The distractions lose their shine, and the assignments that matter stand out in sharp focus. Your days stop feeling like a blur, and they start feeling like steps towards something specific, something worth building, worth protecting, worth giving your best to. But here's the part I love. This peace and clarity aren't just for productivity. They're for presence. They're so you can actually enjoy the life you're building, not just manage it. They're so you can hear God's voice in the middle of the day, not just when you've got your Bible open. They're so you can sit across from someone you love and really see them, without 1,000 to-do lists stealing your attention. And in this peace, you'll finally feel it, that you are seen. Not in the shallow way the world notices you when you're winning or posting something impressive, but seen in the way that matters. Known all the way down to your core, loved in the parts of you that never made it into the public eye. Understood in the places you thought were too complex for anyone else to get. That's what happens in a true new cycle. It's not just about you doing something different. It's about you realizing how deeply God has been paying attention to you all along. Every tear you thought went unnoticed. Every quiet prayer you thought went unheard. Every step forward you took when no one was watching. He saw it. He knew it. And now, He's answering it. Not just with opportunities, but with a kind of peace and grace that lets you enjoy the life He's building with you. So when you step into this season, do it with your head high. Not because everything's perfect, it won't be, but because you'll know that you are walking under the covering of someone who sees you, knows you, and loves you in a way no one else ever could. That's not just the start of a new cycle. That's the start of a new way of living. My friend, you've heard the words. You've felt them land. This isn't just talk. This is a moment. A moment to decide whether you're going to walk into the new cycle we've been talking about, or whether you're going to let fear, regret, and the weight of the past keep you standing in the doorway. You've been prepared for this. The slow seasons weren't wasted. The waiting wasn't punishment. The losses weren't random. It's all been shaping you for the life that's right in front of you now. But it won't walk into you. You've got to step into it. You've got to open your hands, loosen your grip on the old, and say, "All right, Lord, I'm ready." Don't overthink it. Don't wait for perfect conditions. Don't wait for a sign bigger than the one you're hearing right now. This is the sign. This is the moment. Take the step. So as we prepare to pray, I want you to make this moment personal. Picture laying every fear, every worry, every burden at His feet. Imagine the weight leaving your shoulders as His peace begins to flood your heart. Let this prayer not just be words you hear, but a confession you take ownership of. A declaration that you will live covered, equipped, and ready. Now, let's begin praying together. Father, in the name of Jesus, we come before you with hearts full of gratitude. Thank you for every word we've heard today, for every reminder that you see us, you know us, and you love us without condition. Thank you for the protection that surrounds us like a shield, for the strength that rises in us even when we feel weak, for the wisdom that guides us when the path ahead seems unclear. Lord, today we surrender our fears, our doubts, and our uncertainties into your hands. Replace them with courage, with clarity, and with a faith that does not shake when the wind blows. We declare your truth over our lives, that no weapon formed against us shall prosper, and every tongue that rises against us shall fall. We stand on your promises, knowing you are our refuge, our fortress, our steady foundation in every season. Father, strengthen us to walk boldly into the calling you've placed on our lives. Let us be light in dark places, vessels of your love, and living proof of your faithfulness. Protect our families, guide our decisions, and align our steps with your perfect will. Lord, restore joy where it has faded, bring peace where there has been unrest, and breathe life into every area of us that has grown dry. Let this next season be marked by your grace, not our striving, by your leading, not our guessing. We seal this prayer in the mighty, matchless name of Jesus. Amen. Before we go, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for taking this time, for leaning in, for letting these words settle deep in your spirit. You could have been anywhere, doing anything, but you chose to be here. And that tells me something about you. You're hungry for truth, for growth, for a faith that's not just talked about, but lived out. My prayer is that what you've heard today doesn't just stay here. Let it travel with you. Let it speak to you in the quiet moments. Let it remind you that no matter where you are, God is closer than you think, and his hand is still on you. Now, here's what I'd love. Don't keep this to yourself. If something here encouraged you, inspired you, or lifted you up, pass it on. Share it with somebody who needs hope today. Leave a comment and tell me what spoke to you, because your words might be the very thing someone else needs to hear. Hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so we can keep walking this journey together. This isn't just about building a channel. It's about building a community, a place where faith gets stronger, where people feel seen, and where hope stays alive. Until next time, walk in peace, stand in faith, and know you are seen, you are known, and you are loved, always.